My fellow musicos. All right, so remember I told you guys in the past we did a craft where we made a piano little cheat sheet. I want you guys to bring that out again. Okay, I told you guys to save it, so you guys should have it. Go ahead and bring that out. We're gonna need it for today's activity. All right, so here you go, guys. All right, so I already told you. I remember telling you that when we made the piano, we're gonna go back and use this in the future. So I wanted you guys to save it. So go ahead and go grab your pianos now. All right. So what we're gonna attempt to do is we're gonna try to learn some basics on how to read music, okay, and how to read and play along. But before we can do anything with this, okay, before we even understand what this reads, we have to make sure we have full knowledge of our rhythm notes. So before we're even working with this, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this. And no, it is not Valentine's Day. It's how we're gonna go ahead and try to understand our rhythmic notes just a little bit more. All right, so by now you guys should have watched the video that Miss Song put up where she went ahead and she showed a really cool activity on how to look at the notes with plates, right? So whole notes was a whole plate, a half note was a plate folded in half, quarter notes were plates that were folded into 4 parts, right? And then we had the eighth notes that were folded into 8 parts. So again, I just wanted to go ahead and demonstrate how the notes are broken up into each other. All right, so we always remember that the whole note, remember, always goes up to 4. So we clap once and we count 1, 2, 3, 4. Right, so the whole note takes this long space. It's going to take the space of 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll see once we put the hearts down. And then as you can see, a half note, we always clap and count to 2. We go 1, 2. And as you can see, the half notes, all right, go into the whole note 2 times. All right, so it's a little division of the whole note. So as you can see, the time that 2 whole notes take is the same time. I mean, the time that 2 half notes take is the same time as a whole note. The same thing applies with the quarter note. Okay, the quarter note then is cut into 4 pieces, meaning that there is 4 quarter notes in that measure. So when we count to 4, each one, like we say, ta, 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 going 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 beats in that measure, right? And so, and then I have the eighth notes. Now, the eighth notes technically is going to be cut into 2, right? Because we're playing 2 beats in the count. We're doing 2 hits in 1 beat, right? So when we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4 in our measure, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going T, 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 T. We're doing 2 hits in each beat. So what we're gonna do is each heart stands for a beat. So this technically, what we're looking at is a measure, okay? This is a measure. And usually before measure, we might put a time signature. So when we put our time signature, when we see a 4/4, okay, all that means is you count each beat up to 4, and then you usually need to start over again. Usually most music sheets and clefs and all that, they show a bar. They show a bar line. A bar line that usually tells you got to start the measure over again. Okay, but I'm just going to keep that just right there off to the side so that you guys can get familiar with it. All right, so I went ahead and I put some notes down. So hopefully you guys can tell me what these notes are really quick. Go ahead and name them. What's the name of this one? All right, you guys should have said quarter note. What's the name of this one? You guys should have said rest note. And then what's the name of this one? That is our half note. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at how many hearts, or as I like to say, beats, these notes cover. So here we have a quarter note. One quarter note is one beat, okay? Takes up the time of one beat. The same thing's gonna happen for this rest note. This rest note is the rest note for a quarter note. So it's gonna take up the same time. So when you go ta, rest, and then we have this last one here. As you can see, it's using two beats. It's using two hearts, right? So that means just like when you use a half note, you go 1, 2, 1, 2, right? It's one beat, and then you count the second beat, okay? So if we were to clap this out together, like if we're reading music, this is what it would sound like, okay? It would go rest, 1, 2, okay? Kind of just follow that motion. So if we have, I'm gonna go ahead and do an empty measure, and an empty measure means all I'm doing is counting without any notes being played. All right, so I'm gonna give us the time frame. Here we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we go ta, rest, 1, 2. All right, that's how you would clap that. So let me hear you guys clap it really quick. All right, so again, it should have sounded like ta, rest, 1, 2. All right, and usually when we do a rest note, we're just gonna go ahead and put our hands out like that, okay? Just so that we know we're not waiting, just so you don't think I missed a clap or something like that. So when you do see a rest note, please just put your hands out like this, and when you see the next note, clap. Okay, this next one, I should have made it a little longer, but it should have covered the whole span of these 4 hearts. Because remember, the whole note is going to use up all 4 beats. So if you're playing a note, you know, and you're doing a whole note, you're going 1, 2, 3, 4. You're holding that note. So if we were playing the piano and you played C, remember this is C, right guys? We did a little cheat sheet, that's C, okay? We would play C. Okay, we would let it ring out for 4 notes. All right, please tell me these notes that I have here. So don't clap them yet. Tell me, which note is this? Okay, we had in the last one. It's a quarter note. Which note is this? That's our 8th note. Very good. Okay, so if we were to clap this, it would sound something like this. We'd go ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti. Okay? Ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti. All right, so let's go ahead and try that again, okay? We have here the quarter note, the TT, which is the 8th note, the ta, and another TT, okay? We got quarter note, 8th note, quarter note, 8th note. And I wanted you guys to look at something again to better illustrate what we're doing here. Remember, I always say 2 hits per beat on the 8th note. See, we're doing 2 claps in the span of 1 heart, right? 1 beat. It's gonna have 2 claps. So in the quarter note, it's 1 clap. We go ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti, right? All right, let's try that again. Ta, ti, ti, ta, ti, ti. Okay, we got pretty much the same thing here, but I took out a quarter note and I put in a rest note for that quarter note. All right, so I want us to go ahead and keep practicing what we're gonna do with our hands when we have a rest note. So we're gonna go ta, ti, ti, rest, ti, ti. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clap it without saying a thing. All right, well, I want you guys to go ahead and do it all by yourselves. Let me give you guys the empty measure to get started, so don't start yet. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3, now go. Very good. All right, before we go any further, I wanna go ahead and talk about a new word and introduce a new music note. So I want you guys to say subdivision, okay? Subdivision. Everyone say subdivision. One more time. Subdivision. So I'm going to introduce a subdivided note. Now all that means is that you split up one beat into two equal parts. You guys see how I did a dash going right down the middle of my heart? This is one beat, and I've split it up into two equal parts. Okay, 1, 2. Now when you guys see, when we start counting, subdivided notes, we usually always count in the measure 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So if we have, for example, a time signature of 4/4, okay? All that means is now instead of counting 1, 2, 3, 4, when we start doing subdivided notes, we're going to start counting like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we're going to add an and. So we count the number on the first half, and then we say the and on the second half. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Do it with me. Ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And the reason why I wanted to introduce subdivided notes is because you guys see here, I have a quarter note. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just get rid of all these other hearts. All right, in this quarter note, okay, I want to introduce something else. Though, not quarter note. Did I say quarter note? That's an eighth note. I'm sorry, guys. Eighth note. Now, in this eighth note, okay, we're going to be able to use these. Okay, so I want you to look at it, because I went ahead and I did the subdivisions to let you see the space it takes in the beat, right? Let me place this so you guys can see it a little bit better. Okay, sorry guys. Here we go. Okay, so here we have an eighth note. If you put these two, this is a barred eighth note. Why do we call it a barred eighth note? Because we have a bar right on top. There's a bar right on top, right? So 1/8 note is equal to these 2/8 notes. This is an eighth note too, but these are flagged, right? They're not barred. It means they can be separated. Okay, but I want you guys to just go ahead and learn this new note. So it's usually, it looks like a quarter note with a little flag, right? In the space of this eighth note, two of these can go into one barred eighth note, because you're technically playing that note for that subdivision. Okay. I also want to introduce another note. All right. So we had a rest note, right? But guess what? That's a rest note for a quarter note. I want to introduce a rest note for an eighth note. Okay? So this is a rest note for the eighth note. So the reason why I wanted to introduce the subdivision is because when we're doing TT, guess what? We might play the T, but the second T, we're not. So in this situation, we have one part of the eighth note, okay? So when we would do, normally we would play TT, right? TT, but in this situation, we're gonna do T rest. So we're gonna do rest, eighth rest, okay? All right, so here we have the subdivided hearts. Here we're back on the chart. We're using our piano. We're looking at our piano, all right, just to get the feel for playing our instrument. So I'm gonna go ahead and put a time signature, and I'm trying to look for my 4/4. Very good. All right, so here we have the subdivided notes. So that means we're not counting 1, 2, 3, 4. We're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, right? We're doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, remember, The first part is the number, the second half is the and. Number, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so before we get started, I want to go ahead and just remind you guys, this is one part of an eighth note, okay? And we're doing subdivision. So this is the eighth note, and this is what? The eighth note rest, okay? Eighth note rest. So this is what it would sound like. I know you're looking at a bunch of squiggles, right? But this is what we're looking at. This is part of the eighth note, so we're gonna go. Well, first, I'm sorry, guys. Let me give you the time signature. So if we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All right, let me slow that down. Remember, if we're doing 1 and 2 and, that's like doing T, 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 T. But guess what? We have that rest note. So if we have that rest note, we're only going to go T, T, and T, and T, and. All right, on the and, we're just going to hold out our hands like this because we're not clapping. So let me give you guys the empty measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? I want you guys to try that on your own really quick. I'll give you guys some time. Let me give you guys the empty measure. All right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Good. All right, I'm going to give you guys one more before I start testing you through this video. Okay? All right, one more situation. So we're still doing the subdivisions. We're still counting 1 and 2 and, right? But I'm bringing back the old notes that we were looking at before. So this is the half note, right? The half note is 1, 2. So if we're going to be playing this while we're doing the subdivision count, we go 1 and 2 and, we're going to clap. We're going to go 1 and 2 and. It's going to take the time of that. All right. And then we have here, like we did last time, we have the the eighth note and the eighth note rest. So that's going to go 3 and. And then guess what? We brought back the old eighth note. So that is still going to be a part of our subdivision. It's okay. I know we're not using the one with the flags. I'm using the barred eighth note. And it's going to go like this. We're going to go 4 and. All right. So those were the parts that we're doing. Let's do it together. We're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, why don't you guys try it again? All by yourselves. I'll give you guys the empty measure. I'm counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, let's try it one more time. Did you guys do this again? Let me give you guys the empty measure. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so here's your test. I'm just going to go ahead and just tell you what notes they are. No, actually, you're going to tell me, and then I'll correct you or tell you if you're right. Okay? But then I'm not going to clap it until you've clapped it first. So we're looking at what? What note is that? Very good. Quarter note. And then what note is this? All right, if you said rest note, good, but let's be more specific. It's a quarter note rest. Okay. Then what's this? All right, if you guys said TT or eighth note, very good. And then what's this? That is our eighth note rest. Eighth note rest. Okay, and this is our other eighth note, the subdivided eighth note. Okay, subdivided eighth note. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a chance to clap it. This is your test. Here we go. I'm gonna give you guys an empty measure to give you your time signature, and then you guys come in when you can. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, go. How'd you guys do? Okay, it should have sounded like this. All right, quarter note, right? So we're gonna go empty measure 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and I messed up, you guys. I didn't realize I kind of gave you guys a hard one. So I'm gonna go a little slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, that's what it should have sounded like. All right, so that's our lesson for today, guys. If you guys get a chance, please go ahead and cut out some of the parts that we showed today. So go ahead and pause the video so you guys can go ahead and look up what the notes look like so you guys can make your own cards. Okay, I want you guys to make your own cards and your own beats so you guys can practice at home. All right, 4 hearts, and then just make a whole bunch of quarter notes, rest notes for the quarter notes, eighth notes, eighth note rest. I want you guys to make some whole notes, all that, okay? And I want you guys to practice, practice, practice. All right, okay? And then eventually we'll be able to start using, all right, the treble clef and start reading some music to play along with our piano.